This is the growth strategist, Ambler, with your tip of the week. I'm going to pose a question. Are there ways to blast past a plateau that's basically been caused by you and your company tolerating a pretty significant problem for too long? Well, the answer is yes. Sometimes it's not easy. The first suggestion I'd give you is when you look at strategic planning, don't just blithely go into long-term planning and ignore the chronic problem. That makes people go through the motions, feel like they're wasting their time, and frankly, the plan is sabotage right from the beginning because everybody knows you're just going to ignore the white elephant in the room and not everything's going to change. So you can create a parallel process of let's look at the problem solving while we look at the future to make sure that you're in sync. That's my first suggestion. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's take it's a family business, and one of the classic problems is that there's been a family member who hasn't been carrying their weight. And if you think about it, that means that there's been long-term kind of conflicting views of the purpose of the business. At least one relative feels that the purpose of the business is to provide income for relatives, no matter what their contribution to the company is. And someone else in the business may have the misimpression or the real impression, however you look at it, that the business is for something else other than that. And if that conflict between relatives goes on and on and on, essentially they agree about one thing. They value not upsetting relatives more than they value the business growing. So if that kind of thing keeps going, you definitely have that self-induced plateau. So in that example, it isn't just the strategic planning that would need to be looked at. You also have to look at who is involved. I've seen companies benefit from the creation of a family council because the family council can spell out, what's our philosophy? What's the purpose of the business? And, who gets to make the important ethical decisions? I've seen family councils change the rules about how relatives are paid. One company changed it so that relatives, blood relatives, got paid the same as a non-relative for the job they were doing. And their performance was considered when it came time to looking at raises and bonuses. I've seen other companies do just the opposite and decide that all relatives are going to be paid special. But at least if they agree, it's easier to grow. It's when they have conflict you have a problem. I've seen companies where they decide that there are a few people in the family that for whatever reason need to have more money. They have a disability they're dealing with or their special needs or whatever it is. And they don't burden the business with paying that person more. What they do is they can invoke the family trust to take care of somebody, but the business isn't burdened with what's perceived as unfair compensation or a skewed budget. I've seen some family councils separate businesses because if there really is a difference in philosophy that's going to stop them from making money, that's the goose that laid the golden egg, maybe having two companies that operate under different philosophies would actually help the family. So putting a family councils in place would help some businesses that are faced with a long-term problem. Now, there's other examples of chronic recurring problems. I've had a client recently that they've been tolerating really unacceptably low gross profit on one of their primary service lines. And it took some real work to analyze it, figure out the causes, and address it. It's not okay to leave it like that. People work really hard and deserve to have some profit at the end of it to be able to grow. Another thing I've seen that has been somewhat of a self-imposed plateau that's starting to change, much to my pleasure, is that a lot of women business owners are starting to take the seminars on accounting for non-accountants and facing the numbers and not abdicating to accountants and not acting like they'll never understand arithmetic. That's just a joy. Some women have believed, say with their fourth grade teacher who said you'll never understand math, and got over it and understanding the fiduciary responsibility of being an owner. That's exciting. The point is you can get past a plateau that has been caused by a long-term recurring problem, and it's worth doing. This is the growth strategist, Ambler, with your tip of the week.